Right. Good evening, everyone. Apologize for running behind. I'd like to call the regular Planning Commission meeting of October 18th, 2022 to order and ask Planning Commission Clerk Tillotson to call the roll.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Chair Klein,
Present.
Vice Chair Portney,
Here.
Commissioner Vargas,
Here.
Commissioner Lightfoot,
Here.
Commissioner Labonte,
Here.
Commissioner Rudine, Commissioner Wilkerson.
Right.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk Tillotson. We'll now present the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please stand? Ready? Begin. I
States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
We will now recess the meeting to allow the commission to move into conference room AB for a study session to discuss Planning Commission meeting operations. And this is the item in your agenda, convene to study session in conference room AB. Because this is a study session, no action will be taken beyond having a commission discussion. The study session is an open public meeting and members of the public are welcome to join the commission in the conference room. We will reconvene in the council chamber at or after 7 p.m. Thank you. We're adjourned. We're adjourned to a different room. And she didn't hear any of that. That was off. Are we ready to? Got it. All right. And legal. So now really is the time to say hello to your Commissioner, or Director Morris, your kids watching? You don't think so? So I guess that's the measure of how old your kids are. If your kids are still watching planning commission meetings, then they're not teenagers. Okay. Yeah, you still get hugs. Okay, so thank you. We'll go ahead and reconvene this meeting of the planning commission. We're now at the part of our agenda where we receive communications, item 5. Staff, are there any?
Excuse me, Chair. Can we resume with the roll call?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that. Clerk Tolton, will you please take the roll?
Chair Klein,
Present.
Vice Chair Fortney,
Here.
Commissioner Vargas,
Here.
Commissioner Labonte,
Here.
Commissioner Lightfoot, Commissioner Rudine, Commissioner Wilkerson.
Do we have a quorum?
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much, Clerk Tolton. We will now move to communications. Staff, are there any communications for this evening's meeting?
There are not, Mr. Chair.
Wonderful, thank you. We'll now move to item 6, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved by Commissioner Wilkerson, seconded by Commissioner Rudine. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Vargas, Commissioner Lightfoot, Commissioner Labonte,
Yes.
Commissioner Rudine, Commissioner Wilkerson, Vice Chair Fortney,
Yeah.
Chair Klein.
Yes. We will now move to business from the floor, item 7. This is the time to address the commission with issues that are not on the agenda, but are nonetheless within the commission's subject matter jurisdiction. There is a time limit of 3 minutes per speaker. Does anyone wish to address the commission regarding a topic or issues that is not on the agenda for this evening? And I do see one member of the public. Will you please remember to state your first and last name?
My name's Alicia Minion, and I wanted to talk to you about development agreements. So a Southtown master plan that was subject to a development agreement that ultimately ended up expiring June 30th, 2021. And there are negative consequences to that expiration. But what I couldn't find on the city's website is an inventory of development agreements that are currently in play that have not expired. And so I think this is an important agenda item for the Planning Commission, that I'm asking the Planning Commission direct staff to inventory all the development agreements, and then also to just identify what's the corresponding project that it involves, what was the inception of the agreement, what is the expiration of the agreement, and just kind of a summary of the major terms. And so one of the terms that was subject to the Southtown Development Agreement was there was some negotiated revenue between the landowners and the city. And this particular, there was one compensation item called a community benefit. I think it was community benefit fee or it's something like that. And what it was, so for example, the proposed apartment project, it was supposed to, that was going to pay, the developer's going to have to pay the city over $3,000 per unit. And it was subject to a CPI index. And so I calculated it would have been over $1 million in revenue. That community benefit fee item, that came up on a council meeting very recently where the city is negotiating that community benefit compensation out of development agreements. And I'm asking that Planning Commission direct staff to identify those development agreements that require that community benefit compensation I'd like that discussed because this revenue is supposed to be used for capital improvement projects like fire trucks, fire stations, things that are for the community. That's why I call it community benefit fee. And I don't want to lose, I think it's a mistake to lose that revenue and to negotiate out development agreements. And I think this is, the Planning Commission could have a great opportunity to make a positive impact to prevent that from happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Minion. I'm going to ask Director Morris to please respond.
Fine. This is not on the agenda this evening, but you will have an item on the November 1st Planning Commission meeting where staff has prepared an inventory and is bringing the council direction on the community benefit contribution on one of a set of remaining development agreements. Will be here as an item next month, which is very close to now since it's November 1st.
Oh.
So that information is forthcoming.
Wonderful. We'll keep an eye on it, and we appreciate the public for bringing it to our attention. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to take on the floor? Bring business forward. Okay. I'm going to close item 7, and we'll move on to item 8, our consent calendar. Now is the time for the consent calendar. We have one item on consent, the minutes of the September 20th, 2022 meeting. As a reminder, if we're not at the meeting, you're encouraged to abstain from voting on the consent calendar. Before we do that, does anyone from the commission or the public wish to pull the consent, to pull the lone consent item from the calendar? Okay. So with that, do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move.
It's been moved by the vice chair. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Vargas. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Vargas. Commissioner Lightfoot.
Yes.
Commissioner Labonte.
Same.
Commissioner Rudine. Commissioner Wilkerson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Portney.
Yes.
Chair Klein.
Yes.
6-1.
Thank you. The consent item is approved, adopted. We'll now move on to item 9, and we have one business item on this evening's agenda. That's the review and discussion of the environmental justice element, the long-awaited. The commission will receive a presentation and provide feedback on this work effort. And I see we have senior planner Tyra Hayes will introduce this item, and we also have a consultant. I don't believe I have your name, sir. And Wow, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Tyra.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. So tonight, we do bring before you the long-awaited environmental justice discussion. And as the chairman has mentioned, with me tonight, I have Cliff Lau. He works with Placework. That's the consultant team that has been hired to assist the city in the preparation of the housing element update, safety element update, and the preparation of the environmental justice goals, actions, and policies. Mr. Lau will be giving tonight's presentation. I would like to remind the Planning Commission that this is a business item. It's meant to be informational in nature. So we do encourage questions throughout the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyra. This is okay. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. And once again, my name is Cliff, Placeworks. Pleased to meet you and pleasure to be here tonight. I'll get right into the presentation. So I'll be giving a presentation about the environmental justice goals, policies, and actions, the work we've done to date. Here is an outline of tonight's presentation. I'll give an overview of environmental justice, specifically review Senate Bill 1000 and its requirements. Then I'll give a summary of the existing conditions analysis we have done for this effort, including identifying disadvantaged communities. Then I'll give a summary of our outreach and community input so far. And I'll go over schedule, next steps, and then receive any questions, answers, and comments you have. So about environmental justice. Just to diagrammatically place where this effort is and with the current general plan update, as Tyra mentioned, Placeworks is working on the housing element, safety element, And we are also incorporating environmental justice goals, policies, and actions into the general plan. Environmental justice is defined as the fair treatment of people of all races, cultures, and incomes with respect to the development, adoption, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. With general plans, SB 1000 requires the incorporation of environmental justice as of 2016. Requirements of SB 1000 include at its core incorporating goals, policies, and actions into the general plan. It can be adopted either as a separate element or integrated throughout the existing elements. Requires assessing community and identifying disadvantaged communities, which are neighborhoods or areas that are experiencing disproportionate impacts from environmental pollution and other health hazards. And to identify what the specific issues, community health issues and conditions are that are challenging those communities. SB 1000 uses the term environmental justice, and if we look at the definition, it's about the relationship between people and environment. So another way that we like to frame environmental justice is that it's also about community health. It's about creating a safe and healthy environment for all people to live in. Sometimes that makes it more understandable when approaching people and trying to explain what environmental justice is about. SB 1000 outlines a specific set of topics and issues to provide a framework for how to incorporate community health into the general plan. They're listed here and include improving air quality and promoting public facilities, promoting food access, ensuring safe and sanitary homes, promoting physical activity, reducing and addressing unique and compounding health risks, promoting civic engagement in the public decision-making process, and prioritizing improvements that address the needs of disadvantaged communities. So I'll go into a summary of the community health conditions that we have analyzed in Vacaville so far. So as mentioned before, SB 1000 requires us to look and assess the community for disadvantaged communities, shorthand DAC. And the primary screening method it states to use this for, to accomplish this by, is to use Virus Screen. Virus Screen is a statewide tool developed by the Office of Health and Environmental Hazard Assessments. And it is an online tool, it's a mapping tool, and it uses a total of 21 indicators that are both grouped into what's called pollution burden and population vulnerability characteristics. And then it multiplies those indicators to arrive at a score at the census tract level. When this cumulative score is 75% or higher, then that census tract counts as a DAC under state law. This is a list of all the pollution burden and population characteristic indicators that Virus Screen uses just to show what kind of issues it looks into. I won't go into details of each of these, but these are for your reference. So we did an initial screen with Virus Screen of Vacaville, and no census tract with a cumulative score landed it in the 75th percentile that would count it as a DAC under state law. But we are aware that there are health issues for Vacaville residents in certain areas. So Placeworks worked with the city to explore other methods on how to further screen areas within Vacaville to see where places are really experiencing issues. So we took Virus Screen data and we screened out the census tracts that were scoring in the 75th percentile of at least 2 of those 21 indicators that you saw before. We then also compared the community health conditions for all indicators across Vacaville to identify common health issues that the we propose for the general plan to address, and that will be of most concern for the city. So from that first follow-up method where we just screen out census tracts for 2 of those indicators, this is a map of those tracts that showed up. From this, we work with city staff to then select the highest impacted tracts as DACs for the general plan update. So these are the proposed tracks. We are proposing 3 of these as to count as disadvantaged communities for the purposes of this update and work. Using census tracts numbers, 3 is 101, which is the yellow area to the lower left, which basically I think my orientation is right, is this area in downtown, off of Alamo Drive, La Cresta, and Twin Creek. 3205, which is more in the center, founded on the west by Brown Street. And then 2904, which is a wide swath in the north and east, as you can see, and includes industrial areas, ladder truck routes, and it's also has the Highway 505 and Highway 80 running through it. And for citywide community health issues, these are the issues we are planning and proposing to address: asthma, housing burden, educational attainment, low birth rates. That might mean low birth weights, but it could also mean low birth rates, and pesticides. I apologize if that was a mistake. And now I'll summarize a little bit about the community input we have received so far. So we held the following activities for community input and public outreach for the Environmental Justice Goals Policy and Action Effort. We had a stakeholder workshop, a community stakeholder workshop on June 30th. This was held over Zoom. Approximately 7 community members attended. And then following that, city staff conducted one-on-one stakeholder engagement and called and emailed 23 local and regional stakeholder agencies. We also received written input and recommendations from the Solano County Public Health Department in August of this year. So this briefly summarizes the input we heard at the June 30th workshop. Folks expressed a desire and concern about needing to expand bicycle and walking facilities across Vacaville, basically implementing more facilities that are planned and making sure that there's a safe environment for both bikers and pedestrians. This will help promote physical activity and reduce car usage to help also improve air quality and overall help with support general health and well-being. There's also comments received about addressing outdoor and indoor air quality with ambient outdoor air pollution, air quality, and also with indoor residential exposure to like toxic materials that may be in older homes and so forth. Also related to that is people had comments about addressing the lack of maintenance and high building code violations in areas across Vacaville to ensure safe and sanitary homes. And then expanding food access by encouraging home and community gardens. And there was also concern about maternal health problems. To summarize the written feedback we received from Solano County Public Health, there was many recommendations, including encouraging mixed-use development that can help promote walking and bicycling, encouraging more infill development instead of greenfield development, and by that way, avoiding conversion of agricultural lands, expanding food access by expanding community gardens and promoting access to healthy food retail, increasing locations of healthy food retail, and supporting farmers markets, encouraging farmers' participation in farmers markets, and like And then also to help ensure safe and sanitary homes, reducing indoor air pollution, such as that would be occurring in older homes, and also by helping that by increasing air conditioning, outfitting older homes with air conditioning. So kind of similar to what we heard from the stakeholder workshop. Let me just give you a little overview of the process and timeline, as well as next steps. So the first two boxes here, we did the existing conditions analysis to sort of understand the community health conditions and try to identify DACs in Vacaville. Then we held the first round of community engagement where we discussed those findings, and we had an open conversation to learn about health issues directly from community members and stakeholders. And now we will be embarking on the next phase where we will prepare the draft environmental justice and community health goals, actions, and policies. And then afterwards, we will present the draft policies to discuss with the community. And then following input from the community, we will then prepare, we will present the goals and policies and update to the decision maker. Timeline today is, from today, we will be preparing the goals, policies, and actions and aiming to have a public draft of that by January. And then we will present that. We will conduct our second round of community engagement in February. And then present the draft community goals actions again in March of 2023 to Planning Commission and City Council, incorporate feedback and recommendations from those meetings in April and May, and then we will seek adoption in June of next year. Thank you. And so if members of the Planning Commission have any comments, questions, or answers, welcome it. Homer? No. And for specific comments we're seeking to confirm the currently identified DACs, and I can go back to that slide if you like, to confirm the citywide community issues to address and to receive any feedback, comments, questions Planning Commission has on the environmental justice update overall to the general plan. Thank you.
Thank you both for that informative presentation. We'll now open it up to Commissioner discussion. Let me pause there, actually. We need to do public.
I would suggest taking public comment and then doing the commissioner discussion.
Thank you for that suggestion. I will accept it. We will now open public comment as to the item before this business item number 9. Any member of the public invited to share your first and last name and your comment.
Sure. Hi, my name's Alicia Minion. And so I think it was slide maybe 12, that there was a map of the city with a lot of colors, yellow and green. I couldn't tell what were the bad colors. So in looking at that scale, and I can't really see from here, I'm sorry, is red very bad? Is that what I'm saying? Okay, so red is bad. So the worst we have is sort of the yellowish lime color. Okay. And now, when you narrowed it down to the 3, what was your primary weighting? There was a lot of lists of factors connected with the environmental justice. So was pollution the highest factor, the weighted factor? And if so, why? And I'm trying to figure out what was the biggest weightings on that list, and how did you get to just the 3? And so, for example, Crossing, maybe the highest weighting was pollution. Was it, is it the proximity, the apartment complex to the freeway the reason? If so, I mean, we have new apartment projects going up against the freeway. So are we creating new disadvantaged communities through our development process? So that's just something to think about. And then also I'm wondering what funding, like grant opportunities, is that kind of playing a role in narrowing down the 3 you picked? Is it because you're going to get some kind of funding? And how will you use it? And then, and then what you're supposed to mitigate pollution. So what are you going to do? Are you going to, change somebody's filters in their house to like MERV filters? Are you going to plant a bunch of trees? I mean, what are you going to do to mitigate the injustice, I guess, is what I'm wondering. And then also I noticed the city of Vacaville is on the regional water board's list of basically requiring to curtail. They're on the curtailment of water list. So I don't know what that means, but if you're addressing the water board's classification of the city being on the curtailment of water list, how are you doing that? Are these disadvantaged areas somehow being further disadvantaged because we're subject to some kind of regulatory restriction on water? So how do you measure those kind of regulatory restrictions, and are we disadvantaging our communities even more just to meet some kind of reg or rule? Hopefully that makes sense. And then I'm curious, the definition of environmental justice, how does it differ between the state and the federal? Because I know there's an environmental justice regulations at the federal level. So what is the city doing about that? Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. So I was trying to take notes, and thank you for the comment. So just I want to make sure that we are capturing all of those notes. I got a couple of them, but we'll revisit that. Were there any other members of the public? Please. We're taking notes. Oh.
Good evening, commissioners and city staff. Good evening. My name is Robin Cox. I'm a senior health services manager with Solano County Public Health, and I administer the Health Promotion and Community Wellness Bureau. So community health is my thing for sure. And I just wanted to thank the planning team. Solano Public Health has provided specific feedback in the written documents that were alluded to in the presentation. And I've been very happy to partner with the city on creating some of the city's community health related goals, policies, and some of the actions that are in this environmental justice element. I'd love to just highlight a couple comments. One is around SB 535. I know that SB 535 defines these DACs, the disadvantaged communities. And I just have a plea that as we work with the public, as we work with these communities, that we try really hard to remember that the words matter and definitions matter and labels matter. And so I would just encourage us to recognize that some of these communities have a lot of resilience and a lot of strength, and they also have room for improvement. But how we talk with our public about the disadvantage has everything to do with inequity and everything to do with just the tone that we strike. And so just in future conversations, I would just encourage us to come up with ways to recognize the resilience, recognize the strength, and at the same time say there's some areas for improvement in some of these zones, but to be sensitive to the fact we're talking about environmental justice and some of these needs. And I, working in public health, I'm very concerned about our asthma rates, not only in Vacaville, but throughout Solano County. Sometimes we have in our state stats, some of the highest symptom asthma prevalence in the state of California, very high up there. So one of the very best ways to take tangible steps to reduce our asthma rates, and there are many, but one of the most tangible ways is to really decrease exposure to tobacco smoke, other kinds of smoke, and pollutants indoors and in settings outdoors where it is localized. And I want to just commend the city of Vacaville, because the city of Vacaville was the city of Vacaville was the first city in our county to adopt an ordinance for smoke-free public parks. Most of our other cities have since followed suit, including county government and our county campuses. there's some room for improvement now because we, in the city of Benicia and the city of Vallejo, have both recently passed very strong protections for some of our lower income residents around smoke-free. Is my time up?
I'll let you finish.
Thank you. Around tobacco prevention and around protecting people in apartment complexes and in condominium complexes. And so I really encourage the city of Vacaville to work on that. And I'm so sorry that it was not in my attachment 2. When I was helping write attachment number 2, I was thinking general plan, and I was thinking somehow land use planning, and I wasn't wearing my
Thank you
very
very
own
much.
tobacco prevention hat. So I
Thank
would
you very
encourage that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Okay. Other members of the public? Okay. I would like to thank the members of the public for sharing their feedback with us. We've taken notes, and I would now like to invite staff to answer the questions that were raised during public comment.
Thank you. Good. All right, so I'll give it a try. So for comments about the identifying the disadvantaged communities and like how do we get to the 3? We would do like to preface that Calaveras Screen is a statewide tool, and that in that sense it does have its limitations in that it's statewide scaling. So at a local level, some areas that are known to be experiencing issues may not come through on a statewide screen. So that is why we took the additional approach to then further screen it to more local conditions, but using the same criteria that Calaveras Screen used to try to arrive at those 3 census tracts that are most impacted by at least 2 indicators by Calaveras Screen. For comments and questions about how is pollution weighted or how and so forth, I'll go very quickly to this list. So Calaveras Screen does break down pollution into a number of different ways. I myself am not familiar with the weighting that has been applied, but has been very carefully built into how each of these are weighted. And so it's a mixture of ozone, PM 2.5, diesel particulate matter, toxic releases from facilities. So it's a very extensive list, and they've applied numerical values to this. And from what I understand, these are then also sort of exponentially related to the population. I'm missing a word in this presentation, I apologize, but what will probably more clearly explain this is the population vulnerability characteristics, where if residents in a certain area are at risk or have high rates of these health issues, then they would be more impacted by the pollution burdens on the left. So there's a multiplication formula that then arrives at the cumulative score. So in terms of trying to provide clarification on how pollution is weighted, that's what I can provide tonight.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to, the specific question was asked, so I just want to make sure we all understand. For the weighting,
Yeah.
are you saying that there is like an XY relationship with those 2 categories of okay. But what's the relationship of this list to the screen, and how do we see the formula with the weighting?
The weighting, it's probably best shown on the Calaveras Screen map itself, where you can click on each census tract and it'll pull up the numbers. There are numerical values for each of these indicators that are not being shown here. And to also answer another related question that, well, I guess this was answered, that the more red it is, the more impacted an area is. But each of these census tracts has a numerical value that was found for each of those indicators. And then there's a formula which I cannot explain that is used in the system to then combine the values of all those indicators to arrive at a single cumulative score.
Thank you.
That is, yeah.
Go ahead, Tara, your mic's on.
Thank you so much. Maybe to simplify the issue, I too cannot speak to the weighting of the individual indicators. However, in your staff report, we do talk about the citywide percentile rankings. And in there, we identify the 21 screening indicators used by environmental screen, But with these 5 census tracts, we identified that they had the most number of indicators within those census tracts. So they range from having anywhere from 7 to 10 of the 21 screen indicators within those census tracts. So they had more indicators than any of the other census tracts within the city, and that's how we chose.
Curious. Thank you for that.
Um,
But I think the other issue was water. Ms. Minion brought up water, grant funding, and the state-federal distinction is probably an easy one for you to head to.
Waters. Yeah.
And if you guys need to come back, we can
Yeah,
always just
I think for those about, I think it was a comment about curtailment of water and how if we are trying to follow or adhere to that, then is that further disadvantaging? And I do not have a response to that tonight, so we can note to get back to you about that later. And then there's also a question and comment about comparison between federal and state regulations on EJ. And I know currently we are following the state law requirements and definition of EJ, environmental justice, but we can also take a look at how it compares with the federal and see how it is adherent to federal law. But what I would understand that it would also, yeah.
Wonderful. And I just so this is like a legal question. It's in code. Andrea, are you able to provide some insight on that? There's like a federal code for EJ. There's an executive order for EJ rather in the Clinton years that started it. But where it's at now, I don't know. But the state law is statute. Like those are the key distinctions. But if there are other legal ones you want to put some light on.
To have like any sort of detailed discussion, but the differences between state and federal law. I mean, customarily, California law is more restricted than federal law when it comes to these sorts of things. And so, understand that, our expert consultant is going to be applying the most restrictive requirements on us as we're doing this. And so, but, that's something I can get back to you on.
Yeah, we appreciate the question that was brought up in public comment, and we will definitely research and get back, hopefully, the next time we come before the commission. And I do have Commissioner Lightfoot.
So I took the public comment, and I'm with you. I don't quite understand the curtailing of water, but the other example that was given, for instance, on census tract 3101, you look on EnviroScreen, the major factor in its score is traffic. And for instance, we have a new high density apartment complex going in right on the freeway on Peabody and forget the name of that little store there, the side drive, which is right on the freeway. So how are we addressing our development in this plan to not create disadvantage? New housing. I think that was the point of it.
That was the tenor of Ms. Minion's question. I think let's really hit that if we can. I do see that this is, the commissioners are ready to, all of our commissioners, we have a speakers list lining up here. So I want to say, why don't we just quickly just get through all the rest of public comment, if it's okay, because we still have a list of public comment, and then if it's all right, we'll open up commissioner comments more thoroughly. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So if you guys, were there other public comment issues that you guys want to address? I know there was, the second speaker had some questions about some, admonitions about tone. So if you want to address that, what you've done there, and anything else.
Yes, certainly. Yes, thank you for bringing that to attention. And we are aware that the, quote unquote disadvantaged communities is currently being used because it is what's in the law, and we're using it just to clearly explain how, what the process is because of the law. But we have worked with other communities where, and also with groups that said that that's, we should be sensitive with the use of the term and how we speak about areas, and that there have been alternatives proposed, and we have worked with alternatives in other projects across the state. And some examples include impacted communities, frontline communities, but it's also it's at the pleasure of the city staff and city itself to choose the term they would like to use for their communities. But it's just a legal term for this presentation, and we understand the sensitivity of it.
Yeah, we do take the comment seriously that it's just about adopting your tone, context matters, all of that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how we're attentive to that. We also had a question. We obviously cheer the report about Vacaville having smoke-free parks. I don't know if you want to add anything about that. We also had the issue about tobacco and indoor pollution.
Yes, thank you for that comment too. So in reviewing other general plans and environmental justice community health elements that have been adopted, we have seen examples where secondhand smoke is also being addressed in some way. To the level of which it will be addressed in this general plan, I cannot speak to yet, but that is definitely something that we see as potential to be addressed in the general plan as part of this update.
If I may,
I'm
I'm so sorry. That's okay. So if I may, I just want to let everyone know that we appreciate any and all comments and questions we received tonight. The sole purpose of tonight's meeting was twofold. One, to help educate the public and the planning commissioners in terms of the purpose of the EUJ and what we've heard to date, but also to solicit these types of comments and questions as part of this discussion. The more we hear from you, the more we have to work with as we start formulating our draft goals, actions, and policies. So I apologize we don't have all the answers for you, but I guarantee you we will be looking into them. And when we do come back to you, we will have those draft goals, actions, and policies for you.
I appreciate that, Tyra. It's a wonderful segue, but not so fast because we have to get to commissioner comments. But we're gonna move on from public comment, and I just want to, before we move on, do we have a sense of when we'll be able to bring the public back some of these answers to their questions?
I would suggest that you pull up the calendar that shows when the environmental justice element is coming back to Planning Commission.
So will the public be able to get some input on this at that next? You'll have answers to some of this? Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. So we'll now close public comment and move to commissioner comment, the commission discussion. I'm gonna start with, if it's all right, we'll start with Commissioner Wilkerson and go down from 7 to 1. Commissioner Wilkerson.
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you, Chair Klein. In regards to the grant, so there actually are things out there. Little bit of a history lesson. In 1996, the tobacco companies were sued. Billions of dollars were given to the United States of America. Each state got its own percentage. And as it trickled down to Solano County, and specifically Vacaville, decided instead of building new roads, buildings, we did education. And so one of the things we did as a part of the youth roundtable, because I was a member since I was 14 years old, one of our strategies was alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. And so out of that came what's called, it was a partnership with the school district, and it was called Youth Taking on Tobacco. And so what we did through the money that was given from the tobacco companies, we did education to kids in school. And we started with high school. We ended up doing kindergarten, second grade, third grade, fifth grade, middle school, with all different different aspects and presentations. But the stupid slogan some kid came up with was "Your butt stinks." And so we had T-shirts, we had all these things, but it was really informative because we were also part of the process of getting the smoke-free park designation here in Vacaville. And so I speak about it because I was one of the founding members of that group. And so through the youth roundtable, I don't know if they meet anymore, but I would love to see Todd come back and take priority because this is an easy win right here for them. And go back to do a partnership with the school district because tobacco companies are still getting sued. They're still giving money. Now it's about the smokeless and the vape. So there is a ton of money out there that is low-hanging fruit for the city. And it also helps encourage kids get involved in the process. And so I think that's an easy avenue that we could go into. Yes, will it take some time? But I'm willing to commit here. I know still have some of those resources and contacts that I could be a resource for you guys as well. So just tobacco is near and dear to my heart. And just the process of it all, I think it would be great for community engagement as well to come back and report on that, because it would be great to see a project like that come back here to Vacaville, that we could do a partnership with the school district and really help move things forward as it comes, not just tobacco, because it's vaping and everything else that comes across. So those are just my quick comments.
Hello, okay, can we start on slide 8? Please. So, okay, is the health topics, are these the ones that Vacaville's addressing, or these are the ones that SB 1000 say to address? Just here. So my questions are kind of clarifying questions, I'm sorry.
No problem. As these are the topics that SB 1000 says to address.
Okay, and then on slide 15, are those the ones that Vacaville's addressing?
Correct. These are
Okay,
the one proposed.
We've narrowed it down. Okay. So within this, the one that jumped out to me, actually isn't even on this list. No, the food access. That's what has really jumped out to me the most on this. Food insecurity is very, very real. And it's very real in certain neighborhoods more than others. And I do really like the idea of expanding community gardens. I hope maybe that's something that could be under Parks and Rec, where, teaching children, this is where food comes from. It's a very almost instant gratification thing that within a season, it started with a little seed and now they have food. That's good. That might not work in all neighborhoods. So I'm curious, and I don't mean to put you guys in the hot seat. So this, curious for the next time we meet. On slide 19, it had mentioned promote access to healthy food retail. And again, not to put you in the hot seat, but are there real tangible ways? Because I know firsthand how difficult this is. I have actually called corporate with Whole Foods, and their criteria for building, even down the Bay Area, is very, very strict. And there's certain demographics they go after, because we get asked a lot. I mean, in person, it's asked on social media, why don't we have a Trader Joe's? And it's not because Vacaville's denying it. That's up to the company to say, well, we're going to get the most profit in this location, not this location. So I'm just curious for a future meeting, how are we really going to market? Is an economic development team part of this? Because even just kind of driving around, it's kind of sparse for grocery stores in general. And I remember when SB 1000 came out, and I was doing a leadership course, and they were talking about this, how in certain more disadvantaged neighborhoods, you might have, you have more like liquor stores or corner shops, and it's not the same access to fresh foods and vegetables. It's not, and this is really near and dear to my heart. And it's usually more expensive because they're convenience stores. So I'm really curious how Vacaville's really going to go after retail food companies, and and I do love the supporting farmers. I love that. But yeah, so that for me, I think we're already as a city addressing
trails and access for recreation. I think we're doing a really good job on that. But I think food insecurity is going to get worse. I know food banks are very impacted. It's not a Solano County thing. It's across the country. And this one's really important for me. Thank you. And thank you for the presentation.
No comment, thanks.
Commissioner Levante. Mr. Lightfoot. Commissioner Lightfoot.
Yeah, so I think I'm interested to see where you end up going with this, because I think that it was mentioned, Vacaville itself actually scores pretty well compared to our surroundings, and we've got some interesting contributing factors to what our overall score is. I think you pinpointed them, but it is an interesting dynamic on how we handle them, so I'm excited to
Before we move on, but I know that I cut you off during public comment, and so I just wanted to get, like, were there other questions that you were asking for public comment? Are you sure? Okay. Bless you.
Yeah, I'm curious about the community engagement. I think I saw somewhere on a slide, community health stakeholder workshop, seven community members. So what is, I guess, the word of mouth advertising on community? That seems like a low number.
So the city announced the meetings using social media. We had it on our website. We made calls to both regional and local agencies, trying to get comments, whether or not they could attend the meetings themselves, just to be able to provide information. We relied heavily on a consultant list that was provided to us by Placeworks, our consultant team. Other agencies that have been a little more involved in other jurisdictions as it relates to environmental justice. But what we're finding is it's sometimes very hard to get people to participate, especially, it seems like it's hard whether it's in the afternoon or in the evening. We've tried both. And I believe we actually held one or two of these twice. Once was in the afternoon, one was in the evening. And I believe I want to say the afternoon was slightly better attended. But right now, this is pure speculation. But with so many demands on all of us, me included, it's just really hard to catch people's attention. So that's something that we always try to improve upon. How best can we engage people to let them know that this benefits them as well? So we're definitely open to any ideas.
Sure, absolutely. That's why I'm asking. And last question, the 26 stakeholders, how were they identified? And was it outreach from Placeworks? Was it outreach from the city? I'm curious.
So the initial list was provided to us by Placeworks based on work in the area. Just so you know, Placeworks is working on all the housing elements and related documents like we are in Solano County, with one exception. They're not doing Fairfields, but there's another reason for that. But I'm going to call him out. This gentleman right behind me took the list, and he was the person who called each and every individual agency on that list. I did fail to mention that we took Placeworks lists and we added to it, knowing what our local agencies were, what our local stakeholders were. So I did list all of the people we contacted by name in the staff report, but we were trying to get a large swath of the community, ranging from food banks, churches, pretty much anyone who might have an interest in this topic.
Okay, thank you. All I have.
Dean, or Vargas, and Rudine, and everyone else, for all of your wonderful comments. They all are equally wonderful. I would like to say that for slide 20, so first of all, I'll offer a praise. I think it's excellent to hear that that Mr. Lincoln called all 23 local and regional stakeholder agencies. That's that's a level of commitment to environmental justice and public health that previously there were, some commissioners that were concerned that we weren't soliciting enough outreach. So that is going well above and beyond in the name of public health. So I want to commend that. I also, I have a question though about slide 19. and this just like makes me wonder, just because I'm looking at the conservation, second bullet there that, goes into encouraging more infill development instead of greenfield development, and avoiding conversion of agricultural lands. I mean, that's sort of like, you're sort of like restating like black letter law sort of in California. Like, we don't develop agricultural lands under CEQA, and we're definitely not, like, we're about infill development encouragement all throughout the Public Resources Code. I'm just wondering, are we restating sort of kind of like a tautological is the phrase I can't pronounce. Like when something just sort of like, it sounds great and it's, of course, like we would be doing that, but that's not a new thing, I guess is my only concern is that in the name of EJ, I don't know, that sounds like the PRC just straight up. So I'd like to know like how, like, why is that an EJ thing as opposed to just like a CEQA thing?
These were comments that summarized from the memo that Solano County Public Health provided. I guess I can't speak right now to how it could be an EJ thing immediately. Could take note to look into it. But agricultural lands, I guess, could be a food source.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot because I
Yeah.
know that you guys are gathering
Yeah.
feedback. So I
Yeah.
just like this feedback so that when we're at our
Yeah.
next stage, just like keep in mind, how is this different than what we're already supposed to be doing under the PRC? And
Yeah.
if we're also, the comments I just would really like to glom onto are Commissioner Rudin's comments about food deserts, because I know the people in the district that I live in, we have to drive to, well far away from our homes. And we have a lot of open space nearby where you could do farmers markets. I know that they do it in Davis, ongoing, regular. So like, it is a difficult thing to pull off, but we can take steps, and we have an excellent team in our economic development group. We can't bring Trader Joe's here as the developer because like the city's like through to Commissioner Rudin's comments are totally spot on. We need to remind, the thing that I think we have to be very careful that we're not confusing people that like, so to her comment that, make people think there's gonna be a Trader Joe's or something. Like, we have no jurisdiction over whether or not we're able to bring, and then I know the language is very careful. It says promote, which is excellent, and that's good, but let's just be careful not to confuse people that we're gonna have farmers market. But if you tell us what steps we're gonna take to make sure that that's happening in specific areas where they are flagging on Cal Screen, I'm not surprised about this data at all. Cal Screen typically is where you have industrial pollution and more industrial uses, where in the city, there's not more trucks than in that area, more 18-wheel heavy-duty manufacturing trucks. It's a heavy burden that's borne in that area, and I'm very encouraged to see that we have the right team here, and we're taking positive steps. So thank you very much. Those are my comments.
Thank you for the comment.
If there's no other comments, we'll go ahead and close this item unless you have anything else to add, Tyra.
I think I may have already said it all. but-
Okay, I think you did. You're trying to get out of here.
But again, thank you for all your comments. And
Thank
we
you.
will be back before you in March of this year, hopefully with some additional answers and with all the draft goals, policies, and actions.
Excellent. Thank you both. With that, we'll go ahead. So the recommended action here is we're just receiving information, and we provided feedback. And with that, we'll go ahead and move on from that informational item to item number 10 with Director Morris, status report. Would you please proceed with the status reports?
Thank you, Chair Klein. My Assistant Director Josh Montemayor will be presenting the Building Division update, followed by Planning Manager Pimon Bivon with the current planning update, followed by Senior Planner Tyra Hayes on the advanced planning update. And they're all going to be very brief, but happy to answer questions.
All right, we're timing you.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Joshua Montemayor, Assistant Director of Community Development, here to give you the Building Division report for September, highlighting some of the stats. So we collected $5 million in building fees that were about down 45% from the previous month. In August, we collected $9.9 million. We had 21 new single-family homes cleared for occupancy, down from the previous month. 33 single-family home permits issued. That's about 50% up from the previous month. About 1,100 inspections completed. That's down from the previous month. We had 470 building permits issued. This is about the same from the previous month. 132 solar permits issued, about the same, slightly up actually from August, and 0 accessory dwelling units from September. So I hope those trends satisfied your needs. Can I answer any questions?
Where to begin? Any- Hey, nice job.
Okay, great.
Yeah, really good.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Good evening. So my numbers aren't going to be as exciting, but I did want to bring to your attention a couple of projects that we received that we've been talking about. So we received the Transwestern Ventures campus project, which is the larger biotech project. It's about 22 acres between sort of the golden triangle between 505 and 80. So that's coming as an application. We've already started working with our Stantec consultant to provide a modified initial study. That is scheduled right now for the December 6th planning. So that'll be coming to you. It's on a pretty quick turnaround, so we don't have a lot of buffer on those turnaround times. So that's going to be to you December 6th. We also received McMurtry Estates, which is sort of in that Bryce McMurtry area. That requires annexation and a whole number of items that will go through the Planning Commission and onto City Council as well. That's in the beginning stages. We just recently sent a notice to folks. And in fact, there was a resident here who wanted to speak on it at 6 o'clock, but I had a chance to speak with her and asked her to send us her comments. So those are a couple of the sort of newer projects we received that will come your way. In terms of what's been approved, we approved the Valley Strong Credit Union project near the Nut Tree behind Denny's. It's a really nice looking building. It'll be a banking facility. Fairmont Square was approved by City Council based on your recommendation. And in terms of new application, we also have a private school. It's going to be located at the Orchard Baptist Church site. That's also going to come to you right now, and it'll be scheduled for December 6th as well.
Are you at liberty to say what school?
It's called the Centurion Christian Classical School at 301 Orchard, North Orchard. So that's the highlights.
Thank you for that.
Hello again. So as the Planning Commission is aware, we continue to work with our consultant team on the preparation of the draft housing element, draft safety element, and the draft environmental justice goals, action policies. I hope I'm not stealing Director Morris's thunder, but I just wanted to share with the Planning Commission, we submitted our draft housing element to the Department of Housing and Community Development, a state agency in charge of certifying our housing element, yesterday to begin their first review, which takes 90 days. In addition to that, Advanced Planning continues to work on the Urban Reserve Development Inventory and Land Need Forecast. You may recall this is a requirement in order to consider the potential conversion of urban reserve lands located mainly in the East Leisure Town growth area. The City Council had received a presentation on this item on June 28th. Since then, staff has met with a stakeholders group as well as a working group for a total of 4 times. We continue to further refine our methodology. And once we have that ready, we will be bringing it to the Planning Commission for the Planning Commissioner's input, and then it'll be forwarded on to the City Council. Advanced Planning continues to work on the Municipal Service Review. That's the document that is required for us to update in order to identify near-term and long-term annexation areas. It's also the document that analyzes whether or not the city has adequate facilities to serve future annexation areas. Lastly, we are working on what has become the citywide cultural sensitivity study. So you may recall, as part of the Downtown Specific Plan, we had an implementation task to create a downtown cultural sensitivity study. And what this was is to identify any potential cultural resources belonging to the Yokodehe Wuten tribe. The idea behind this was kind of twofold. We want to strengthen our relationship with the tribe. It was also to help streamline any kind of environmental review as it relates to potential cultural resources, which can be found fairly routinely along the city's creekways. So most recently, as of today, we have received the very draft protocols and we are vetting them internally. The next step is to meet once again with the tribe to get their buy-in. And that is the highlights of what's happening in advanced planning. Any questions?
I do have one just quick follow-up from the previous item that reminded me about the EJ. One thing that stood out to me as well is around tree equity. That there's a area in environmental justice known as tree equity that's sort of like a new, I mean, it's not new, but it has a nice name now. But so it strikes me that if you were to enter, and I've done this, so if you enter, and so I'm disclosing that I have done this research on my own. So if you look into tree equity as Google tree equity, and you find a way to enter into this tool, if you were to search on your own, you'd find that it looks just like Calenviro's screen in terms of the breaking down the city and taking a look at which areas of the city have the least amount of have the least developed tree canopy, and that's a measure of asthma. And it's not a measure of asthma, excuse me, but it obviously is a contributing factor of asthma. So if I believe that if something we're going to take the next step for tobacco-free parks, we might want to look at tree equity and how the whole city can have a nice, beautiful tree canopy.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I personally was not aware of that, and that is something we will look into.
Yeah, some people have nicer trees in their yard than others, and you're probably going to be in a more affluent area if you have a nice big tree. That's the basic idea. So thank you very much for that report. So with that, I will turn to Director Morris for the director's report.
Thank you, Chair Klein. So City Council actions pertaining to Planning Commission items. On September 27th, the City Council considered 2 appeals of the Planning Commission's decision to approve the Southtown Apartments project. And they did not take a final action on September 27th, and that item is likely to go back to them for final action on November 15th. They also approved the aforementioned Fairmont Square project. Then also, since the last Planning Commission meeting on October 11th, the council heard an update on the city's housing element. It was pretty much the same presentation the commission got. And then, of course, that allowed us to send the housing element off to the state of California for their review. Upcoming projects that have been here that are going to be there on October 25th, the Green Tree project and the North Village Area Plan 2 project are on the city council agenda for their consideration, for the first consideration. Tentative schedule of future planning commission items. I'm going to actually switch screens here because this I think is a little more up to date. We intend to bring you the aforementioned community benefit contribution development agreement amendment for your recommendation to council that will come here November 1st. And then we're also bringing forward the Northeast Growth Area zoning map and text amendments, and that will be here also on November 1st. These are things that the current council directed the staff prepare and move forward. And at this point, we're running out of meetings this year. So we're going to have a very action-packed November with those 2 items going to both bodies in the same month. Try to move them along. And then I think that's it for tentative schedule of future items. And I just want to remind everyone that we're meeting on November 1st, not November 15th, because the council will be meeting on the 15th as a special meeting, and we'll be all here on the 1st. And then also remember that we're meeting on December 6th, which is also out of sequence, but it is our regular meeting because that was approved at the beginning of the year. So just make sure if you have recurring meetings on your calendars that you would update them, because we really would like to have you all here. And then lastly, under the announcements category, we have made an offer. It has been accepted to hire the very last vacant position in my department, which is our permit technician in the building division. And she says yes, and she says she's going to be here. Now we're just working through the final hiring details. So when she arrives, I'm literally locking the doors to our department because we'll be fully staffed, and I want to at least be able to celebrate that for a couple years with the people that have joined the team because I'm really excited. And I think those are all the updates I had for you all this evening.
Congratulations on that, and all of the rest of you that have been conscripted behind a locked door, and good luck, and call your families as soon as you can, I guess. Thank you very much, Director Morris. I appreciate that. So it's now time for commissioner comments. Do any commissioners wish to make comments? Commissioner Wilkerson.
First, everybody, Halloween stroll downtown Vacaville. Bring your kids, 4 to 6. I'm bringing mine. I got a pretty cool outfit if you want to laugh. I'm pretty sure you do. There was the giant pumpkin way off out at Nut Tree right above my work, and that was pretty cool to see those pumpkins. And while I was there, I engaged in conversation with a couple of airmen. And what they stressed to me was they work out at Travis, but they live in Sacramento. And so I said, well, how long do you work? They said, we do 10 to 12 hour days. And I said, so let me get this straight. 1 hour to get here from Sacramento. You work a 10-hour day and it's an hour and a half to get home. Where's your quality of life? You're not spending any money in Vacaville. And going into the economy that we all think we're going into, gas is going to be more expensive for them. And they're not spending any money, and that sales tax money is not coming back to Vacaville. And so my point that they stressed to me was, it's too expensive currently to live here. Are there any projects that are coming up down the pipeline or anything we can do? And I just, as part of the Planning Commission, I want us to be really mindful of that. Travis Air Force Base is a $3 billion entity to this county. We cannot afford to even have that on. We can't lose that. And we have more airmen coming in soon. They're going to be looking for places to live. And so just in terms of planning, I would ask us all to be mindful that we would love, of course, for them to live in Vacaville, spend their money in Vacaville, and not have to commute that time like some of us have to do in our other jobs of commuting that long. I mean, they're already giving their service to the United States of America. They're already doing more than some of us may have already done. And then now they're commuting that far. They're not raising a family here and they're not doing all those things. So it's something that came to my heart where they came and spoke to me while I was out there watching the pumpkin thing. So just wanted to put that out there, just us to be mindful always about of how important Travis is to this community. Thank you.
Dan, Courtney,
Good.
Okay.